It is NBA trade deadline day. Across the NBA, moves have been made. Teams are improving their rosters or dumping off players to make room or get more money back to make moves in the offseason. It's just been a crazy day. I'm Kylenn Mills, and I'm so excited to talk to my usual co-host, Cyrus, the host of Locked On Warriors. It's a reunion right here on Locked On NBA, and we're going to be sharing this around the network because my head's still spinning, Cy, but the Warriors have made some moves. Essentially, it's a James Wiseman for Gary Payton II swap, but it involved multiple teams. Initially, it was Wiseman being offloaded, the Warriors getting 5 second-round picks in exchange. I was not happy when that first went down, but now it all makes sense. Those 5 second-round picks have gone in exchange for Gary Payton II. What are your initial takeaways from this?
It took me a second to actually accept it. It was one of those moments where I literally tweeted this. I'm like, am I dreaming? It felt so surreal. But the moment, it took me about a minute or two to absorb it as reality. And in the moment I did, and I think you and I off the air were talking that this makes perfect sense. It's a beautiful move. Nobody in the NBA landscape nationally or in any regional market outside of the Bay Area is going to say this. I might be the only one to say it, but I think this was potentially the most important and biggest move of this entire offseason for the simple reason that in team sports, Kylenn, you played college ball, soccer is a team sport, you get this. Chemistry is so underrated, and it's one of the most important variables in team sports for success. It's a huge reason why the Warriors won that title last year, because they have such tremendous chemistry, not only with the core veterans, but surrounding them with players that the veterans can bounce off of, can trust, that they like. There's no dissension in the locker room. And Gary Payton was such a fit for them last year. It broke everyone's heart when he left. Like him leaving rattled everyone. Like, it ruined the offseason. I mean, we were doing shows where, like, for a minute we were stoked they're defending world champions. Then the very next second he was gone to Portland, and all of us were like, wait a second, one of the most important pieces of the world championship run is just gone because of money. And so to have him back, it's huge. And the part that people aren't talking about so much is that even though on paper it looks like just a Wiseman for Gary Payton II swap, right? That's ultimately what this comes down to. But if the Warriors didn't go this route, I don't think they would have Dante DiVincenzo on the roster right now. And DiVincenzo is such a huge piece for this team that to have both DiVincenzo and Gary Payton II coming off the bench for you now, that is perimeter defense that this team has been lacking all season. I mean, the number one glaring need for this Warriors team, offensively, they're fine. It's been perimeter defense. I think they're worse than the NBA in terms of opposing three-point field goal percentage. And Gary Payton II is literally the salve for that. And what he also brings to the table defensively is someone who will prevent any other team from just running amok. The Warriors now have defensive matchups for the Suns, for the Clippers, for the Grizzlies. I think they're going to repeat as world champions. It's taken me until February 9th to say this, but on February 9th, as long as they're healthy, I predict the Warriors to repeat as world champions.
Wow. All right. I love it. You're making all the hot takes here right out the gate. Before we talk a little bit more about Gary Payton II, I want to touch on James Wiseman, their young center, who you've been high on, and we both have said that we feel like needs to get more time and should have gotten more playing time throughout the season for the Warriors, more opportunities to develop. He's had such a rough tenure dealing just with a slew of injuries, dealing with a meniscus tear that kept him out for over a year. How do you feel about the Warriors offloading him? And you look at, giving up a second overall pick for, some second rounders, just without knowing the full circumstance. Just that at a glance to me is kind of jarring. What are your thoughts on dumping James Wiseman?
Yeah, Bob Myers' track record isn't perfect, and it's a failed number 2 pick. They botched that pick. They could have had Tyrese Halliburton. They could have had LaMelo Ball. There weren't I will say this: that draft was insanely weak. There's no way to predict what happened, but it was a failed pick. The good news is it has such a minimal impact on the Warriors. They got that number 2 pick largely because of just a colossal down year following, one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant 5-year run in NBA history. So it's not like the Warriors were a struggling team with a weak roster who desperately needed that number 2 pick. And they got it in one of the weakest drafts in history. So on one hand, yeah, it totally sucks. I mean, you wasted a number 2 pick. But on the other hand, again, you look at that draft, the 2020 draft, and not only could no team scout players because of the pandemic, which really hurt the Warriors, I think, among many teams, but there was not that glut of talent like there is literally just in the very next year's draft when the Warriors got Kuminga and Moody. I do have to say that I'm really stoked that Moody didn't get moved. That's huge because I do believe in him for the future. It's a bummer that the Warriors lost Wiseman, but the great news is no impact whatsoever on the team because outside of his rookie year, he never really played. And so it's not like the Warriors lost somebody. He was a player that was never really a part of this team outside of on the bench or in the G League. So the impact is minimal. It's just more of a pride thing. And I also do think that's why it's taken the Warriors so long to move him because they do have some big egos in the front office. And it took them this long to admit, yeah, we botched that pick, but it sucks. But what are you going to do? It's time to move on.
Well, one thing that you have touched on, though, is that you feel like James Wiseman could possibly contribute in the postseason, at least just in a backup role as far as adding some size. Where do you feel like the Warriors roster and depth stands now in the front court? I mean, they bring in Gary Payton II, who's an excellent wing defender, but, what's the outlook in regards to front court depth from here?
Well, you've been saying on Locked On Warriors for a long time that you really want the Warriors to get it big. I don't blame you. I feel like every time I hear you say that, I hear echoes of myself from a year earlier. In 2021, 2022, I was begging for that. Like, I really wanted the Warriors to get it big. They made no decisions. They stuck with, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, Nemanja Bjelica. They were playing Otto Porter Jr. down low. And then this year, instead of Bjelica and Otto Porter Jr., they have JaMychal Green, who's fortunately starting to come around. As a positive. And then Jonathan Kuminga has really arisen as a front court player. So I agree with you. This is just Steve Kerr's philosophy. He has given up on bigs. He doesn't believe in them, at least not in the traditional sense. Like to him, Kevon Looney is fine. A 6'8", 6'9" player who has speed, who can run the floor is more important than someone who can block shots and who can grab rebounds a little easier and score in easy baskets in the post. That's the part that I want the most, really. I'm with you, but it's one of those things where this is Steve Kerr's team. You have to live with what he wants, and he does not want a big. So the most curious thing about all this is what was going on behind the scenes, right? Like when they first drafted Wiseman, like I don't know if we'll ever know like who advocated for him. We're never going to know really like how Kerr felt about him, honestly. But you and I were both saying this too over the last few weeks. The language from Kerr and Bob Myers was not supportive when it came to Wiseman when they were doing interviews. They were making it very clear, and we've touched on this a lot, that he was a goner, and he is. And I hate to say that with a smile on my face. I know I'm smiling, but this is what Gary Payton II does to you. I'm elated. I am so stoked that Gary Payton II is back. And even though I agree with you that the Warriors are a diminutive team, they're small. They need Draymond to stay healthy, but they've already proven they don't need it. So I think they're going to be okay.
Last question for you, just from a nostalgia aspect, the fan aspect, how cool is it to see Gary Payton II come back and wear a Warriors uniform? I feel like he's coming home. I just tweeted that. And, maybe you can break down a little bit of the backstory and remind people about how hard he fought to get on this Golden State Warriors team. And I know specifically last year, he said it always felt like the Bay Area was home. So I don't know. I feel like this is cool to see it come full circle.
Yeah. Real quick, I do want to mention as well that it's worth noting the Warriors, Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted this, that they're saving $7 million in luxury tax this year by trading Wiseman and bringing in Gary Payton II. And then next year, they're going to save $30 million. So there were a lot of finances involved in this move as well. But from nostalgia, I mean, I don't know of any person in Dub Nation who doesn't love Gary Payton II. It's not just like they love him. I mean, when the Warriors won the title last year, and I've been saying this repeatedly, I did not think they would have won that Celtics series without Gary Payton II. They didn't need him in the Maverick series. The John Morant injury in the Grizzlies series kind of neutralized losing him because of the Dillon Brooks injury. But he was huge in that Nuggets series. He's going to be huge if the Warriors play the Nuggets again. He is such a savant. I've never seen anyone like him defensively. He's very unique, but he's also very underrated offensively. He can hit the corner three. Stephen Curry has sung praises about the fact that Gary Payton II is always at the right place at the right time, meaning like he has instincts for where to go offensively to score or to set up his teammates to be successful. He's just such a positive individual. He's very humble. There isn't a lot of ego with him because, I mean, literally like last year, before the season started, the Warriors did not initially even offer him a deal. he was cut and he was on the waiver wire. And Gary Payton II, you and I know the story, but maybe a lot of people don't. Gary Payton II literally asked the Warriors if he could be like a video coordinator for him and was looking ahead to his future beyond basketball at the age of like 28, I think. And fortunately, Bob Myers and Kerr were smart enough after he passed through the waiver wire with no one adding him. So that's 29 teams beside the Warriors that made a foolish mistake of letting him just cruise through the waiver wire without anyone adding him. And I think we're all elated. I think that's just the bottom line. We are happy. Oh, look at your puppy back there. Yay.
I know. And we have puppies here at Locked On Warriors and NBA. All right. Well, thank you so much, Cyrus, for joining us. I mean, folks, you heard it here first. Warriors right now are 28-27. And Cyrus says with the addition of Gary Payton II, they are going to defend the NBA championship and win another one. How about it?
5. And we're doing live Locked On Warriors tomorrow. Excited for that.
All right. And live Locked On Warriors will be coming up tomorrow. All right. For more on the NBA trade deadline, find your local Locked On show and subscribe to Locked On NBA for the very latest across the Locked On podcast network. We've got all the coverage for you. Just check out all the different media channels for the latest videos, podcasts, and the latest on the NBA trade deadline. Locked On, your team every day.